So a quick hello to anyone who is watching. So Ed and I have been having a bit of a chat, sort of behind the scenes, as it were, and we thought, I thought it would be really fun actually to have this conversation sort of on stream, because we're talking about season 2 and moving forward, and Raul's thoughts about kind of what's happening. So let's just recap a little bit about the things we were just saying. About, first of all, where Raul thinks he is following that conversation with Q.
Well, as I said, I think the initial reaction I had in character and me was that we literally Q had literally picked us up and moved us to, off stage, off screen, wherever Q wants us to be. But certainly, as he said,
exit pursued by a bear.
Yeah, diverse alarms and blood everywhere. He removes us from the 12 Romulan warbirds with 8 more incoming, all coming in weapons hot and calling us to surrender and be dragged off to the Romulan Star Empire in chains. His first words were he hates it when his favorite TV shows get cancelled. So we have been intervened. He has intervened on our behalf and moved us temporarily out of harm's way, and then put us face to face.
Well, you say that.
Yeah. It's a different type of harm, isn't it?
Temporarily out of that specific harm's way.
Yeah, and into a very different type of. It's a change of peril, rather than anything else. But yeah, so he's moved us to another area. It's like, right, well, we've seen you tested with that, and now let's see how you get on with this. But as I was saying, thinking along those lines, my initial thought was that the alternative ISS Livingston that we saw on the scanners had been put in front of us just as much as we've been put in front of it. My thinking is, initially, would they be as surprised to see us as we are to see them? As in, we've both been put into this arena in space. That was my thinking. So where do I think we are? Do I think we're in the mirror universe? We could be, but my initial thought was that they had been brought to us, or we've both been put together in another area, and one of the many of the multiverses.
So yeah, I mean, there's I suppose 3 options. There is you're in your universe and the Livingston's been brought to you. You've been brought to the Livingston in their universe, or you've both been brought together somewhere else. Yeah,
those are the only 3.
Interesting.
Those are the 3 options, really.
Kind of, yeah. But it could be any of those. No, I think that's an interesting. And as I said to you off there, I haven't finished writing this, so.
Yes, we don't know.
I can't tell you. Not that I would, even if I knew. What about Raul? Because this is all about. Sorry, what about Farron? Because this is all about Farron. Clearly being stuck with the ISS Livingston.
Yeah, it's now that there's the options here are they looking for him? Is he looking for them? Is that some sort of intrinsic link that you will always find your own half of the alternate universe? In the original series Mirror, when they transported between universes, they were on the same ship. They weren't dumped on the moon somewhere or found themselves in a marketplace in San Francisco. They were exactly in the same place at the same time. So along those lines, has the mirror universe, I say mirror universe, obviously, has the alternate Livingston just gone through what we've gone through and has been brought to the same place by Q to say, right, how did you both do? did you blow up as many space stations as the Prime Universe ones did?
Yeah. Well, so comparing notes against each other.
Yeah. It's the Livingston 5-finger discount.
Well, if Series 1 is anything to go by, then I would imagine that the Mirror Livingston is probably full of very empathic people who are sympathetic to people's causes and try not to kill innocents where possible.
Oh, I mean, compared to us, I mean, their body count is through the roof.
They're really low.
even they would think that we're. Even they, yeah.
That's the Night M. Shyamalan twist, isn't it? You are the Mirror Universe, and we're all along.
They're actually the flying space version of the Salvation Army. It's the US Livingston Soup Kitchen.
Now, obviously, you've had your scans done of Rahl, though. Of Varen. It's the mead. I blame the mead.
That was it. No variation. I think we've talked about this off air as well, because after at the cliffhanger beam out episode, that was how the story was continued was absolutely dependent on what on earth I was getting back off those scans of him, and I needed to drag him into medical to find out, and it didn't help in the slightest, but it did, because it just opened up so much. It wasn't a straightforward, oh yeah, there's the variation you're looking for, he's obviously a Terran. There was no variation found, which just left me at a complete. I was literally sat here for some time thinking, well, what on earth do I do? I didn't know how I was going to have to act to push the story forward, which was weird and scary. But I was like, how do I? And so I was having to talk to the doctor. Say, can you give me any help? No. Right. Getting into the medical bed, and that doesn't work. Okay. Yeah. Caused me some moral issues there. And
Q has said that Varen both is and isn't.
Yeah, he is and he isn't. But that's good, because that squares away with the actual evidence rather than just a Q telling you, which what comes out of a Q is about Q the misanthrope, Q the liar, Q the vulnerable. We've got some sort of evidence that says, he's telling you the truth. He is and he isn't, which is, as I say, is going to have to be, or season 2 is going to have to be about where does the Varen that we've got with us either want to fit, or where do we let him fit? And as I've said, I'm thinking that Rahl is going to be a fairly pragmatic type. He's going to say, you've served with us, there's been some issues, but can you better yourself with us? Do you want to, and can you?
But what does, I'll say both Rahl and Ed, what do you think is going on with Varen?
My gut feeling would be that he is from the one we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
The one we're dealing
There's
with.
only one Varen that you've encountered, so
yes, this is the only one we've got. Is a Terran, but is he a Terran in his heart? Is he a Terran in his attitude? In some cases, yes. Does he want? I think one question I asked myself was: is he a Terran? Does he want to be? As I mentioned before, if we've got someone here who admits or says, okay, I've tried to keep it quiet, but I am a Terran, then as Ed and as Rahl, my attitude won't be slap him in irons and sling him in the brig, because we've gone past that. We've explored, we've succeeded together at some cost in materiel and in some cases other people's lives. Some of them were Romulans infected with parasites, and a couple were Federation citizens who we never met. So
oh, that's fine. We didn't give
fine.
them names.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're like sheep in a paddock. If you don't
Unnamed
give them
NPCs.
there's a curry.
They were only one day away from retirement,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fine. In fact, that's necessary for plot. they need to take a bullet before the title credits roll. But yeah, as Ed and Ra, I would say our if that's who he is, our mission being to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life, is to say, well, where do you want to be? Because the seat on the bridge is open for you because he's proved his ability. If that's the only Baron we've encountered, then we've known him for a while. Whether or not he's kept his Terranness, whether it was only that particular combination of stresses and situation that brought out the worst in him, or should we say, the least useful for a Starfleet crew in him, but it was saved by the thinking of the teamwork of his colleagues and maybe say his friends. Did we save him from himself? Did we give him a chance to redeem himself, or a chance to try and be something different?
That's really interesting. And hello to Captain Quinn. So Ed and I basically started having a conversation off air about looking forward at season 2, and I thought actually this would be a really good chat to have on air.
So we can remember it afterwards.
Yeah,
so there we go.
But I mean, so much of it. So particularly with Varen, a lot of that is now set in stone. Where he is, where he's come from, what's happened to him, who he is. That is behind the scenes set in stone, which obviously I'm not going to tell you. But you seem to be very much of the mind that, well, he is a Terran, but you've got empirical evidence that says he's not.
Yeah, well, it's like we have Terran characteristics in a body that's very much a prime universe. I mean, there is nothing physical that isn't prime universe. There's the medical scans show no variance. So I mean that baffled me and still does a bit, in all honesty. So I think to clear that would have to be a scene where we say, well, as I was saying, you have to say, who are you and what do you want to do? Because the chair is open, the door is open, because that's how a Federation starship in this situation, I think, would have to be. Now, I'm quite away from Starbase 117 and Admiral Janeway's awful gaze, but I have, as acting captain, I can do quite a lot. Can I hide the fact that he is but isn't Terran? If he wants me to maintain that facade to upper levels, well, that's like anyone asking, whether they wanted whether their sexuality mattered in their job. It doesn't. Do I need to report that to anyone else? No, I don't. Can they perform the job? Yes. Do they want to tell me that? They may do.
That's an interesting analogy, because I mean, so this is me as not as a GM now, but as a human being looking at the scenario from the outside. I see a better analogy as, like the ex-Nazis from the Second World War when they went into hiding.
Yeah. Or like Operation Paperclip, where they're actually brought to America to be used.
Operation Paperclip being the perfect example there. Which I think is a very different thing to. Well, do you want your sexuality kept discreet? Because your sexuality kept absolutely. That's between you and you, basically. Yeah. It's nobody else's business. But war crimes might be perceived differently.
Well, I mean, we've committed a fair few of those in the past season already.
Well, there's that.
Depending entirely on your point of view, because a great deal of truths we cling to depend entirely on your point of view.
And yes, thank you, Captain Quinn. I am living on borrowed spoons at the moment, as I often do. I've got an audition tomorrow, so I'll be definitely living on borrowed spoons then. But yes, I will probably be crashing after. What's it? It's Thursday tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, Friday and Saturday I can crash. That's good. And as Captain Quinn says, it's a problem. War crimes.
Yes.
If he is a Terran.
That's true, but have Terrans committed war crimes within the Prime Universe?
I think most of our audience would say that the crew of the Livingston have committed war crimes.
Well, now, as we said, we were given 3 mission directives, and we completed all of them in the sequence.
Protecting Federation citizens
was third. And they give you them in sequence because at some point you'll have to put one above the other, and you need to know quickly which one comes above the other. And protecting Federation citizens was third above protecting Starfleet from neural parasites and from upholding the Prime Directive. And that was easy because there was no, there were no Mintarkans to charm this time.
Fine, as long as it's an either-or situation. Yes. No, it's fascinating to me sort of to go into this kind of detail because, like I say, a lot of the decisions made by the crew have driven what is going to happen in season 2. In fact, the entirety of season 2 has been written by the crew of season 1,
yeah.
Pretty much. I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait.
I mean, it does give us the interesting. Actually, going back to the idea of the war, it does give us the interesting moral question. So if all the the Nazi scientists who were brought over were those who surrendered or were kidnapped, or mainly, let's face it, surrendered to one side in preference to the other. For their own good.
Saw which side their bread was buttered.
Yeah. So where the money was going to be to continue their work. Now, as we know, von Braun was a card-carrying member of the Nazi Party. Well, yeah, in many cases, at some point, you had to be, and if you wanted to do any sort of scientific research, you were going to be, and if you certainly wanted to be looking into rocket technology, and you wanted any sort of funding, you were going to have to accept a commission as a major in the Waffen-SS.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to have a photograph of yourself in your uniform because someone will want it for propaganda purposes. And if you don't, not only, don't worry, you won't be alone, as the Romulans will say, all your families will suffer with you. They'll all be, you'll meet them again, all in the gulags together. But at the same time, there's so many of those scientists. Yeah, they were working towards the V1 weapon and the V2 weapons, but what did they achieve afterwards? The modern world that we have and lots of the modern technology we have, undoubtedly driven by the space race and by the American push towards them, towards essentially landing on the moon is the objective, which caused the history to record that America won the space race, if not the first race to get into space. But at the same time, do you then brand all German rocket scientists as Nazis? Do you brand all German rocket scientists as war criminals?
Yeah.
Do you take every person who happens to have been born in the Terran Empire as a racist and a war criminal, no matter what they've done? In some parts of the canon, Terrans are the affected party. They are those beaten down by the Klingon-Cardassian alliance into a slave state. So, do you then say, right, well, these guys who are now essentially a slave species in the galaxy, but they're guilty of all the crimes that the Terran Empire committed before Emperor Spock turned it to democracy and destroyed it. The Klingons would say that the son is responsible for the crimes of his father. Do we judge that the same? Does the Federation in the Prime universe take that and say every Terran is a bad Terran? Now, my reading of how, in my head canon, the Federation goes is that they wouldn't judge every Terran as being a bad Terran. They'd take every Terran as a human on their own merits.
Well, there's an interesting sort of nature versus nurture argument that goes with that, isn't there? Because, I mean, you know, kind of from the get, or Ed would know. Ral is a different story, but Ed would know that one of Varen's values is xenophobia, for example. But yeah, is that nature or is it nurture?
Yeah, can it be changed? Values can change. Actually, mechanically as well as emotionally.
Well, exactly, and it's interesting that you say that your instinct would be to basically get Varen in a room and say, "Look, where do you want to be? What do you want to do?" But if, let's assume for the moment, the worst traits of a Terran, if that were the case, wouldn't survival instinct kick in and he would tell you what you wanted to hear? So how could you trust the answer?
Well, exactly. About how can you trust any answer? When again, taking us back to the scientific analogy, they say no, I was never a card carrying member. Yeah, but how many of them might have actually read some of the propaganda and thought, yeah, I kind of agree with that. And years later, in America, enjoying a burger somewhere in the deep south, whilst testing their rockets, which they're given an enormous amount of money to do, and of course high schools for their children, and shopping malls for their wives because it's the 60s. They're not going to openly start spouting off anything that they might have been talking about 30 years previously or even 20 years previously. They're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear, that they were just there to do their scientific research and it just happened that the Nazi Party had all the money. But then anyone will tell you what it is you want to hear. I'll tell you your flight's going to go on time, as long as you go and sit down.
Yeah. But it's an interesting dilemma for Ral.
So Captain Jerry Sports dilemmas. It's an awful place to be. Absolutely,
it's fine. Admit it.
It's fine bashing doors down, knocking monsters on the head, and looting their stuff, and then going on to the next room. This is real problematic role playing.
Excellent. So a question then for Ral, given the new information provided by this queue, or not provided, but also provided, does Ral regret putting Varen as his first officer?
I don't know. No, I think Ral's a sort of say, make a decision and you stick with it. You can regret it afterwards. Yeah, fine. It's not going to change what happened. And to be honest, sometimes putting people in uncomfortable positions is a way of it can bring out their worst traits, but also bring out their best. Just like someone gave me a captain's chair where all I wanted was to fly it.
Mm.
He was only built as a helmsman.
Do you think Ral would make the same decision again then?
That's
knowing what he knows now?
Knows now. Maybe not. No. Maybe, yeah, but I don't know. I think Ed made the decision because it's going to make a better story.
Okay.
Is I think what the problem is because
shaking things up can be a good reason.
Yeah, because Ed did consider everyone for the post of who's going to be my XO, but specifically thought that one will be more interesting.
Did Ral consider any NPCs?
No, actually, no.
That's interesting.
No. He would have considered only ones we can. Well, only ones we can activate immediately because they're always there. But to be honest, your main player characters do have more focuses and more values and more talents.
I mean, it's fine. I'm not going to tell Sonia.
No, well, she's busy anyway. I've never seen, and canonically, has a first officer ever been the chief engineer as well?
Can't think of an example, but I also can't think of a reason why not.
No, there's no reason. Well, to be fair, your first officer is going to have to be on the bridge next to the captain, the old Klingon thing, speaks to the crew, but commands the ship, and your engineer is tending to be going to be down in the warp core, not in it. Havok, get out. But he's going to be in there tinkering with stuff, making the ship fly. I think you've got a problem of loyalties there. Chief engineer's loyalty is to the bones of the ship. The first officer's loyalty is to the blood that runs through it, the people of the ship. Oh, that's how I see it.
See, you look at the Next Generation and Voyager and what have you, and yeah, first officer is a full-time job in of itself. But you look at the original series, and of course Spock was the first officer, but he was also the science officer.
Science officer, yeah. It's. I mean, in mechanically in game, it openly says you can be any of the bridge roles and take the XO job. It's just there. You can have a specific executive officer build if you want, but it says it's just as easy to have someone, because when they're on the Defiant, Dax is usually first officer.
Yeah, and she's helm. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think in game it will make little sense to have a player captain and a player XO without a role on the bridge.
Yeah. Well, unless you had a really big player, around a table, a big player group.
Yeah, even then it would just be.
I think it would be clunky.
Yeah. So it makes sense to have someone, and let's not forget that the Livingston, as much as it is slightly larger than the Defiant, it's still not a big ship.
No, it still operates
limited.
It still operates as a Defiant class would. So it still has like one helm console, one captain's chair, and multifunction seats around the side for other positions as needed. So you might not always have a science station, though most ships have a science station running because it's useful. But that could be combined with an operations. So we don't have an operations officer as a main character, but someone could have said, I want to be an operations officer.
Well, yeah, very, very easily. Captain Quinn makes an interesting point that where does Riker go when the situation is grim? If he's not needed on the bridge and he can't get to engineer, I think Riker's one of those, he can literally, and I think he has sat in every possible chair. He's gone to tactical when he needs to go to tactical. He's sat in the helm chair when he needs to go to helm. So yeah, I think that's the advantage there, is you've got someone who is versatile enough to slip into any role.
Yeah, I think it explains in the character generation as well that essentially, actually in the command book, I think it actually says the command path is one that is tricky because, okay, if you go into the science path, you can say, well, I'm going to spend my whole career looking at gaseous anomalies. That's my thing. And there's a space for that because there'll be a ship that's going out doing specific gaseous anomaly stuff, and you're going to get allocated to that and just be looking at that for 3 or 4 years until you get another one that does the same. But command, you're going to be having to sample a little of all the other departments because you need to know, at least, even if you're not an expert in science, you need to know a bit of how they work and how they operate and how the tactical guys work and how the engineering side works, because you need to facilitate them and to enable them. So when they say, we need to take this offline and put that, you say, right, yes, thanks for that. How can I help you make that happen? And you say, right, well, I need power from them, or I need manpower from there, or I need time, which is non-existent time from here to make it work. If it's the engineer, then you divide it by 3 because he's lying.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly, yeah, exactly it. Jack of all trades.
Because the initial, because the final objective is that you're going to be expected at some point to sit in the chair and command it all. So you need to have a little bit of an idea of how it all works. But you don't need to have come from that. Obviously Janeway, a scientist who ends up in the captain's chair, and you've got others who've been more engineers. I mean, well, certainly by rank, Scotty ends up as a captain, though not a role.
He ends up as a commander. Did he end up as captain?
I think he's a captain by the time it's. Oh no, because he says, I need you on the new Excelsior as captain of engineering. So he gets promoted to captain, but as chief engineer. Okay.
And we know Sulu, of course, ends up as captain, but he's gone the command route via Helm. Exactly.
Although in that period, I believe that Helm was more of a was it operations, and it was more sort of operations and scientists. No, he's in gold, isn't he?
He was in command.
Yeah, I think the operations division was part of command at that point anyway, and then they sort of moved it because operations is by the Next Generation era, operations is gold, their version of gold.
Yes, yes, it is. But interestingly, in TOS, operations and tactical are conflated together as well.
Yeah,
because Chekhov.
You have helm and navigation as two complete. Navigation and helmsman are two different tasks, which later become the con, because they do work together. If you're going to fly it, you might as well know where you're going.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yes, and yeah, Captain Quinn rightly says Troy did the engineering exam, and yeah, you've got pilot and engineer is kind of, well, if you're going to fly it, you need to know how it works. That makes perfect sense. I mean, you see that a lot with Tom Paris, of course, in Voyager. He's a fairly proficient engineer.
Yeah.
As well as
he
being a
can
pilot.
tinker with stuff quite well. He sort of builds the Delta Flyer essentially, doesn't he? With a bit of help.
He works with Harry a lot on it, but yeah, he definitely has a massive hand in it. So you do get the different. But yeah, any route can be a route to the command chair ultimately.
Yeah. It tends to be. I mean, I think they say, if you're in the command path, your first job out of the academy will tend to be a helm position. It puts you on the bridge. It's something that you are flying the ship, and you can be a very, very good pilot, as in a good hands-on stick pilot with plenty of feel for it, and be a great helmsman. And to be honest, you can be not necessarily good at that, but still a competent helmsman, and you're in a position where you're receiving orders and just executing them, which means that you've got time in some ways to be listening and seeing what's going on. It's like the sort of the midshipmen of the of the wooden ships navies, the snotties. They were kids. They were 8, 9, 10 years old, but they were starting their career to end up as captains because they were the sons of people with a stake in society. They were the officer class, but they were still expected to learn their trade from the bottom up. And some of the midshipman tasks were things like taking the soundings, marking the sextant, keeping the time, and basically the basic navigation tasks, because they've got space and time to see how the ship works, because they need to know how it works, because they need to literally learn the ropes.
God, apprenticeships, Ed. Do you remember them? Apprenticeships? God, that was back in the day, wasn't it, eh? When we had apprenticeships. That was a thing.
We'll have to put something out. Reggie was an apprentice, definitely. I don't know what to do. Apprentice ice cutter.
Well, in that little parody music video I did for you all, did you like the whole, no, I work for a living, I do. From Reggie.
Very hard working man is our
I'm
Reggie.
not an officer, I work for a living.
I might have used that phrase.
Where do you think I got it from? Brilliant. So very, very exciting. The other thing I wanted to ask as well, about Q's message. So I'm guessing you've watched it maybe a couple of times now on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few playbacks there. It's either me or Kat keeps watching it over and over again.
Do say hello to Kat for me when you see her next. Or if you're watching, Kat, hello. Do reach out. Do say hello. You're missed. So there was also a thing about Liera.
Yes, about the not necessarily being asleep. That was all a bit of a ruse.
She's no sleeping beauty.
Yes. I mean, you kind of got the impression that I didn't exactly notice Liera in fluffy bunny slippers and a dressing gown when we were having that meeting with Janeway in the first place. So I did think at the time, hang on, am I being set up here? It was a useful mechanic to get me into the captain's chair anyway. From mechanically just being there to lead away teams and go, yes, I agree, or to take over an explosion on the captain's console.
So you think it was just a bit of convenience?
I don't know. I get the feeling that Janeway specifically wanted me to take that mission, and specifically wanted that our Varen on the mission as well.
Why?
She knows where he's from.
Yeah, if that's the case, then she would know.
She knows where he's from.
Why does Ed and or Ral think?
I don't know. I'm like, is it the Ligarians? They hate a mystery. I hate mysteries.
Shit!
My whole
there's a lot on this boat.
my whole day in day out is basically removing mysteries and coming to facts.
Okay.
But then I said you get to facts by getting rid of the mystery. My thinking that mine and Ral's thinking is, well, I usually think with my historian head, there's more than one reason. So it's either she knows his origin. That is a given. She must do. There's no other reason that she would ask me or tell me at the first place to keep an eye on that one, or words to that effect. There was something very, 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 very noticeable that she said about him early on in the module. Hang on, what did she exactly say? Did I write it down? Oh yes, I did. Hang on. No, I didn't write it down. I think it was in a chat somewhere. I'll put it on. But she said basically to keep an eye on him. So she clearly knows.
Did. Yes.
She clearly knows that. Or I think when she asked me who I was going to nominate as temporary first officer, she exchanged a glance with Liera. Now, I wondered at the time if it was a case of that's what we expected you to say.
That's interesting that you've jumped to that conclusion because she exchanged a glance with someone off screen.
So yeah,
and you think that was Liara, dear?
Well, no,
Because Liara should have been asleep.
Oh, I thought. Sorry, I think I thought. Oh, there was someone off screen. Yeah, maybe I thought it was. I was under the impression that her and Liara.
That's an assumption that you've jumped to. Interesting that you've jumped to that assumption.
So she either wants it. My thinking was either does she want empirical evidence that he is to then take some sort of action. Well, we tried finding evidence. We got no return on that. Does she want him to expose his Terranness? Okay, that seems to have happened. What does she want me to do with it? She hasn't indicated. And she didn't say, and if he does this, I want you to do the following.
At the first sign of insurrection, kill him.
Yes, it was nothing about that. No, subsequent orders.
I mean, I'd be shocked if Janeway actually said that.
Yeah,
thought it. That's a different thing. I mean,
yeah.
Tuvix, never forget.
Not a killer, but a killer. I think that the problem is I didn't get any specific instructions other than the mission in question. So I've got to kind of decide, well, what does she want me to do with what I found? Well, she's not told me to do anything. So I can do pretty much whatever I like with the information that I get. Again, this kind of
that's a hell of a jump.
Well, this is kind of a Raal thing. Remember, he lived a very, very long way from Trill, is the Klingon Empire, or the border with. So yeah, you kind of get a bit of an independent mindset there. Or if you've not told me something specifically to do something, I've got free reign to do a little bit more than you think. Or if you wanted that, you should have been more specific.
I like the thinking. A lot of Starfleet officers would have thought, well, obviously they want me to collate information and then report back.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've not gone to a position where we can report back. I think I did. Did I report back something? I think I just reported on the general mission progress. And I reported that we'd had no variation or no variance found.
Yes, you did.
Important. So I don't know if she's taking the same assumptions that I have. She's not seen some of the things that we've seen, or noted some things that we've seen. I don't know if I put an awful lot in that log, in the ship's log, about the beam up incident. I don't think I did.
So looking back, what does Raal actually think happened there? With hindsight.
With hindsight, Raal...
Because before anyone could really report anything, other things then happened on the bridge.
Yes. I mean...
Bosch suddenly appearing.
Yes. Wherever he'd been. We have... yeah, and that was the point at which it was... From Raal's point of view, that's the empirical evidence he needs, that there is this is our Varan, but there's something not right. There's something not expected. It just sort of proved it. But where we need to go from this is to find out how much, is he Terran? Is he not? Is he wanting to be Terran? Or is he not? Does he want to stay here, or does he not? And the only person who can tell us that, I can't figure it out. I can't make a blind guess. What I need to do is ask the open question and get him to decide.
So it hasn't occurred to you to ask the one person who gave you this information, who said that, in the the words of the ancient Earth philosophers, the clash.
Should he stay or
should he stay or should he go?
Well, I mean, I was about to reply to James, but he sort of clicked his fingers and vanished. You can shout at the ceiling and ask for Q to come back, but it's up to him whether he does or not.
Yeah. Hello to Walter W. all the way over in Montana. Montana? Is it? No, Montana. Montana. Like Hannah Montana.
I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah. Hello, Walter. Thanks for joining us. We're just having a little bit of a conflab between GM and acting captain about our Montana. Thank you, Captain Quinn, for correcting my pronunciation there by text, as you do. Yeah, we're just having a bit of a conflab about Season 1 of our Star Trek Adventures game. Ed, of course, being our acting captain, Elin Rahl. I'm just grilling for information and inspiration ready for Season 2. It's good to know what the thinking is behind it all. I mean, so a lot of it, to be fair,
it's terrifying to find out there's not much thinking going on. There's just no idea. I don't know.
It's like I said earlier, as a GM, I love to do the whole sandboxy thing, like, here's what's happening in the world, or here's the bit that you can see of it. You follow whatever threads you want to follow because the rest is going to happen regardless. And that can be, as a player, so it's interesting because you've got the knowledge of Star Trek lore, but as you say, this is like your longest running RPG that you've ever played. So as a player, that must be quite frustrating.
My first,
yeah. And doing absolutely brilliant at it. Oh, and Walter's enjoyed the series, so thank you, Walter.
Oh, thanks, Walter.
That's brilliant. Worth going back, I mean, obviously after this stream, but worth going back and looking at our earlier stream today when we had everyone together and we were all chatting about Season 1 and our highs and lows and what we thought and what we found hilarious, basically. Worth going back and looking at that stream. But we're chatting right now, so even better. It must be quite frustrating for a player to have it to basically not have any. So when it comes to VAR, I know exactly what's happened to VAR on a very technical, detailed, biological point of view. I know exactly who VAR. Now, even Usher doesn't have all the answers to that. He knows what's happened to him. He knows the things that he's aware of, but he is not aware of the underlying things behind that. But obviously, I as the GM, because I've created the scenario, I know like in real detail, but I've not really given you any threads to pull on. Is that particularly frustrating, or does that make it more interesting? Or
in honesty, a few episodes before we finished, I felt it was frustrating. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, because I'm in a position where I'm supposed to, you're the commander, you're the acting captain, you've got to lead. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm not, especially the zero variance. Well, that's it. Well, yeah. Well, fine. Okay.
That was a dead end.
Yeah. Just don't know what to do now. And I was literally going. A couple of nights I was just sat there going, I don't know where to push the story with this or what to do in it. So that particular plot line of the Varan is a Terran, I was like, I'm just going to have to ignore it and just carry on with the mission because I don't know where I'm going with that. And if the breadcrumbs are obviously in front of me, I've missed them. So I'm just going to crack on with the game as it is. and leave him to carry on as he is, and see if anything else crops up, or it rolls back round, or something pops up that can help out. So I don't think it's necessarily. Everyone else was like, yeah, "This is great, carry on," but I was worried that I'd missed something, and that no one was going to give me like, "Go back 3 episodes. That's the clue you need," and it was all going to click. I was worried that I'd missed something, and that I might have just blown the whole story here, because I'm just going to carry on as normal, because I can't just sit here and go, I don't know what to do, because you can't do that for a game, and you can't do that for a stream, and no one wants to sit and look at me going, I don't know where I'm going, for 45 minutes, especially when we've got neural parasites infecting the galaxy and space stations to blow up.
Well, that was your priority.
And last but not
murdering
least,
as many innocents as possible.
Maybe protect Federation citizens, but Starfleet is the priority. And Starfleet and Federation citizens are 2 separate entities.
They are. They are very much so. Very much so. It's been an interesting ride. So that's an interesting perspective. So me I suppose as both a player and a GM, I like the stories that kind of reflect real life, which is sometimes you get a piece of information that literally doesn't go anywhere. That real life is like that. That you get something and you can either choose to do something with it or not do something with it, and that's your entire.
We investigated. I think we came with a couple of other options to just cross-check that as well, and it still came back with no. There's nothing to it. I think that's when okay, well, I'll lower down as well.
My chair suddenly dropped. There we go.
But I think we took the right. Well, I took the right decision to say, okay, well, if I'm not getting anything more with that, we push the story on, because, as I said, I didn't want to be the one to be holding everything up, wandering down a dead end, and for the 17th time, I'm going to just check if there's any secret passageways. No, there are no secret passageways. This is a dead end.
Well, that's it for me. Like I say, as a player and a GM, I like the whole concept that there's no real right or wrong answer. There is just you make your own story. All right. I as GM, I present the world, but you're the one making your own story, and you might go down a route that is a dead end, and that's it. But that to me is what makes the story interesting. Is you don't know if it's a dead end or it's not, and finding dead ends adds to the intrigue of, well, is the next one going to be a dead end? Yeah,
well, that was frustrating then, but it's when you get the information that he is, but he isn't. And you're like, okay. So now we're looking at the he is, but he isn't. Well, that means that there's no physical or scientifically provable and detectable evidence. So we've got to go down the drama route, which is we need to talk. The characters need to talk about it. Now, if one character just lies and says, well, that's what he's presenting.
So you've got one jigsaw piece and you've got another jigsaw piece, and you've rammed the two together, and you've got your hammer to get them into place.
Yep. You make it fit. And then you gaffer tape it.
No. Brilliant. I was going to say, like, my style of GMing in that way, then, that kind of creating. I mean, I'm not deliberately creating dead ends. I'm just, that's the way the world is, and do with it as you will. Does that detract from your enjoyment then, or?
No, when I say it was frustrating. I think I was more frustrated with myself, not with the game. It's like, am I missing something here? Have I failed as a player here? Is everyone else sort of going, oh yeah, there's the big clue, he's going to pick that up, and it doesn't. Oh, right. That was my worry, my concern. But as the story progressed away from that, and we completed the module and the series and the season, it actually sparked off more questions and more ideas of ways to address the Varen issue, to take the story onwards, or to at least role play how my character would address that problem based on the evidence that he's got.
Walter raises an interesting question. So if the players aren't interested in a plot point or a particular line of delivery or line of story, then you move to where the players want to go. And I would say yes, absolutely. I'm a great believer that the GM's just a facilitator. That it's the players who are writing this story. It's their story. It's them who are creating this world, this environment, everything about it. But also, I would disagree in that you don't necessarily just move it automatically where the players want to go, because the world is the world. And if where the players want to go is a dead end, then you're going down a dead end. I don't know, maybe that's my naivety as a newish GM. I don't know. It's really, I suppose every GM has their own style and
I think every
way of doing it.
Every GM I've seen streams of, or blog posts about, or guides how to on in video form or whatever. They've said there is that you can push a story one way, but if the players want to go this way, you absolutely got to let them. But there's nothing to stop you, picking up one particularly great encounter that you'd written, but they've just walked off somewhere else, and writing it in a certain way means you can just lift it and drop it in front of them later on, because they're always going to be moving forward. You just put stuff in their way, whichever direction it is they've gone, to populate the world around. So you've got a fantastic end of level boss. Well, it doesn't mean we leave the castle. Well, he's going to be waiting outside for you. If you really wanted them to meet him.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just really, really tough. Walter, so you say you're working up to GMing this particular story. Do please jump on the Discord. The link is below, and DM me. I'll more than happily chat to you about what I have added in a shitload of stuff that is not in the story.
And we nearly broke it most of the time, most episodes.
And Captain Quinn, you sleep well. Thanks for joining us. It's been good to see you. Good night indeed, and happy Star Trek Day. But do get in touch, Walter, and I'll more than happily discuss with you things that I felt have worked, things that haven't worked, and what have you. From my perspective, not that I know everything, because I really, really don't by any stretch. But do feel free to get in touch. It's I don't know. It's just there's an example. So my sister, I GM a Pathfinder game for my sister and my brother-in-law and my nephew, and my brother-in-law he's very, very big on video games. He'd never played an RPG. Well, none of them had ever played an RPG before, but they'd played lots of video games. But he's a real video gamer. So to him, it's like, here's an object in game. It's like, that's got to have a very specific purpose. Whereas in Pathfinder, it doesn't necessarily. It's up to you. It's open world. You use it how you want to use it. But it was really, that's got to have a very specific purpose for something plot related. It's got to, and they've got that sort of frame of mind. But he's also got a real kind of, well, it's fine if I die, I'll respawn, right? And I've tried sort of explaining it's not quite that simple.
Yeah,
Well, all right, you can't re-roll a new character, but it'll be a new character, and your character will be dead.
Yeah, completely dead.
So there's that whole, and he did so I presented it was part of the AP that I'm running with them. There is a really way too difficult level monster at one point, but you have to jump down a 60-foot shaft to get to this monster. So he jumped down it. There's like a level 2 character, and he's faced with level 5 monster on his own because the other two didn't have the idiocy to jump down, and it's like, oh, what are you doing? But he's got that sort of gung-ho attitude of, oh, it's fine, I can respawn, not that he's thinking I can respawn. It's kind of that learned behaviour. So RPGs are a weird thing in that respect, but which is why I very much like to do the whole, it reflects real life. Decisions you make have real effects. Moving forward. I know I keep saying
consequences in game.
Well, yeah, totally. I know I keep saying that. Season 2 has pretty much been written by you guys. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding at all. Your actions, your behaviours throughout season 1 have led to exactly where season 2 is going. Which you'll find out, and I can't wait for you to find out.
This is very exciting.
Assuming you all survive that long.
Yes. I mean, we managed to survive, 12 Romulan warbirds only by being removed from the situation by an omnipotent entity.
Q saved you.
I'll take that every day. It worked for the Enterprise.
It did, but you also know from the Enterprise that you can't rely on Q every time.
Or you can sometimes be saved at a cost. 18 cost.
From a mechanical point of view, the only time you're going to get a Q interjecting is when I already have a video pre-planned with James.
Already been filmed, it's ready to go.
If I don't have that, Q is not stepping in.
Yeah. Well, again, see why I can't simply call upon him, because just a minute, well, let's see if James is around on Discord and we can get it.
Well, you can ask the question.
Yeah.
You may not get an instant answer, but you can ask the question. Like with any god.
Yes, or those that think they are.
Yeah. Prayer is the last resort of the desperate or something. Isn't there a phrase?
Yes, I mean, I'm not sure on Trill spirituality. I think they sort of take it or leave it.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting, because aren't the joined almost revered?
Yeah, I think it's more sort of it's more the sort of almost like the Far Eastern reverence for ancestors, isn't it? And for because rather than revering their memory and their wisdom, you have a walking, talking repository of it is just over there, or he, she, they are there.
The joined are like the three-eyed raven from Game of Thrones. They're the living memory.
Yeah, that's it. And to be honest, that's in some way, that idea is what tweaked a few of the characteristics of Mirror Ral and the purpose of him and what he does is that, and it's just not nice.
He's not a pleasant one at all. I don't know if the viewers will ever get to see him or not.
Oh, well, I'm writing up bits and pieces for him, but I do hope they do. Even if I just still be on Discord at some point, they'll just hate him because
we'll have to work something out, even if we have a mirror only one-shot episode. I think,
Yes,
there's-
it might. Yes, it might have to be. It might have to be from the point at which the two ships meet. See if you continue the story from the other side as well, or a one shot from there.
so
No, a one shot that finishes where the two ships met.
interesting. But that means they've got to survive.
Yes, it does.
So there's no threat of death.
There's no threat of there's no peril that's insurmountable.
And it's interesting that you would, in your head, you've got Rahl on the Livingston. Why would he be on the Livingston? Why would he be on a Terran ship?
Well, is it? Yeah, an Imperial ship. As far as I have in my head, the Mirror Rahl, he's not the commander of the ship. He's an agent on board it.
So like a guest, he's being transported.
He's been transported, or maybe it's specifically at his disposal, is how I like to think of it.
Interesting.
Though it's not, of course, it's not his ship, but it's at his disposal. And oh my goodness, you want to make sure that it is definitely doing what he asks nicely for it to be doing.
Well, is he a High Inquisitor? Is that the?
I think, well, yeah, I think that in my version of their universe, the title Inquisitor is enough. The ranking within it is no one's business, other than those who are in the Inquisition themselves, and each one only answers to the Emperor themselves, but at the same time, do they answer to each other? Maybe they do. Depends on the nature of what is needed. Wheels within wheels.
And nobody expects the Trill Inquisition.
No one expects the Trill Inquisition. We have 3 vital weapons, spots. Mainly spots.
Oh dear. X-ray monocles.
Yes, that's definitely for a very specific and sinister reason.
I love the whole X-ray monocle thing. That's brilliant. Right. I think on that bombshell, gosh, do you know what? An hour ago, I was going to start watching the Star Trek Day celebrations on StarTrek.com, but I'm going to go back and watch it now.
Yeah, it's going to catch up.
Yeah, but no, this has been really fun, inspirational, and some of it may get used moving forward. Some of it may not.
Excellent.
Don't be disappointed if everything we've discussed does not get involved.
Oh well, no. This is literally just note padding in verbal form.
Yeah. But I do like the idea of a one-shot mirror universe
adventure.
One-shot side game. Yeah, just a side game. Sidebar.
Yeah. Well, we've done similar. We've done similar with Hakak and his epic saga.
Yes, Hakak, the Klingon Empire,
son of Groloff, House Loka.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very, very much, and thank you for joining us, watching. This has been fun, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye now.